The question keeps coming up: should we flee England for places somewhere else? No one ever says where we should be going, as if the problems are somehow located only on our island, and we can just go somewhere else and everything be hunky dory.
Not that I want to flee England, but if we recolonized Rhodesia, perhaps.
Maybe. But the question keeps coming up, and so I thought we'd just talk about it because this is a perennial problem. Because everyone can see that the decline is very palpable. Everything around us is getting worse. The country seems to be going to hell, and this is what I wrote a long sort of tweet about that Dan wanted to talk about in more detail in a more recent episode of Brokenomics, just called Decivilisation, because everything is getting out of control. It's very clear that the people in charge aren't really in control of what's happening. They don't really understand the damage that they're doing, and they're very remote from the problems. And so we're going to wake up in like 5 or 10 years' time. Things are going to be radically different how they were. And the question is, what happens then? And so let's move on to Peter Hitchens' point, which is, well, young people should just flee. Denethor posting. Let's just leave.
This looks like an older picture of Peter Hitchens. How long has he been going on about this?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? This is from, I think it's like 2018 or something. This was posted 2 years ago, but I don't think it's only 2 years old. But it's exactly. It's a few years old. He's been on this for a while, and of course, I got into an argument with Peter on this on Twitter, and this spawned a number of articles about people talking about this argument. But we'll come back to that later because the most recent example is here in the Telegraph, where Sam Ashworth Hayes decided, no, people, as he says, you can see from the title of this, if you're under 50, it's time to jump ship, time to get out of Britain while you can. God, that is a disgusting sentiment, isn't it?
It's not one that I support personally. Also, so that clears it up. I thought it was Neil Ferguson who said this, so he was actually just quoting Neil Ferguson.
He was.
That makes sense.
Speaking that if Americans knew what would be good for them, they would all be in the Tea Party. And he is modifying that. So if British people knew it was good for them, they'd leave. It's like, okay, all right, let's have a look at your argument. So he begins by saying, look, 90,000 British people a year leave. These are not the 600,000 non-British people who live in Britain who leave every year as well. So we've got a sort of net outflow of British people. And he says, economists think that migration is being driven by a combination of push and pull factors, things which drive you away from your home country and things which draw you to your destination. We've grown used to stories of doctors trading soul-sapping shifts on NHS wards for higher pay and fewer hours in Australia, or finance professionals heading to Dubai. The risk for Britain is that this trend now becomes widespread as a toxic combination of economic stagnation and surging growth elsewhere lure young people away. It's not as if the push factors are lacking. The housing market is passed beyond dysfunction and into catastrophe. Record numbers of adults still live with their parents, trapped by surging rents and unaffordable house prices. Those who do strike out can expect to spend well over 20% of their incomes on housing costs, double the proportion that baby boomers spent when they were young. The average deposit on a family home can take 19 years to save compared to 3 years in the 1980s. It's like, yes, we know the problems. This isn't helped by government taxing us at Scandinavian levels. We've got the highest tax burden ever at 37.7% of GDP. The NHS, unreformed and possibly unreformable, seems to be falling apart. And so basically everything is terrible. So yes. No. Caring for Britain's elderly is set to impose an even greater burden on the working age population. The record tax burden is going to be surpassed in the future. And essentially, social care budgets are going to take up 18% of GDP. So, right. Everything's bad. We know.
So we've got aging population, which is one of the things that they always use as an excuse for why we need more migration.
And so the youth should leave.
I've seen, it was from 2015, I think. There was a NGO that was funded by Bono, I think, of all people, who was encouraging members of the EU Parliament to allow more migration in, off the bat, purely of the argument that, well, it needs new lifeblood. What we need is Africans. What we need is young Africans to be able to man all of the stations, because otherwise we'll just be entirely filled with old people. Well, why don't we create a scenario in which it's better for people to start having families and
Yeah.
having children again. Maybe
Yeah.
we should do that.
But no, that's the point, isn't it? It's like, no, it's our lives for the NHS, not the NHS for our lives. The NHS should be for us and not us for it. But
Imagining Aragorn across the line for the NHS.
Well, that's essentially where the
Going
British
into
government has
Mordor.
arrived at.
Yep.
But he finishes it with this. He says, the German economist Albert Hirschman framed the choice of consumers facing deteriorating quality as one between voice and exit. Either stay and try to fix things or leave for a better alternative. For young people in Britain, voice seems to be failing. There's precious little political impetus to try and fix any of these issues. Successive governments have found planning to be a political live wire, with the NHS run almost as its own private kingdom, issuing demands for tribute from ministers unable to effectively interfere in its running. No party seriously wants to shrink the state. That leaves exit. Those who can go should. Imagine the absolute state of Britain if we actually did, the under 50s just did start mass emigrating.
Well, we've already got a competency and skill crisis going on
Yeah.
at the moment, so the entire country would collapse. Maybe this is a good idea, actually. The country collapses, all of the migrants leave because they can't leech off the state anymore, and we come back.
Yeah, not so the country collapses, the state collapses. All of the things that are underwritten by the state collapse. The state itself collapses. The tax revenues dry up.
You're starting to sell it to me.
And we've got to start completely afresh.
Even better, rise like a phoenix.
Yeah, that would be great. And this prompted YouGov to do a poll. Of course, everyone's like, well, yeah, I don't think I'll do better in the UK if I stay in the UK. 89% of just adults were just like, no. Only 11% thought they'd do better.
So I can understand where this comes from as well, because we always go on about house prices over here, how ridiculous they are. There is nothing more blackpilling as a young Englishman than looking at house prices over in America by comparison. The mansions, the manor estate houses in the middle of glorious nowhere that you can afford for pittance in certain parts of America. Good God.
I mean, literally, we were looking at them the other day. They were just like giant houses for like $100,000. It's like, oh my God, it's incredible. But that's
also no one.
Yeah, no one
in the middle
for 100 miles
as well. Oh, it'd be beautiful, and I can buy guns. Oh my God.
And so I thought we'd go back to my discussion with Peter, because I think that the situation is not hopeless. It is just that the previous generations don't know what to do. Right? And there's a great part in this article in The Critic that I'm just going to read out, because I think this essentially exemplifies the difference. Right? He says, the more I think about it, the less strange the Hitchens-Benjamin interaction becomes. It marks the ending of one paradigm and the beginning of another. Where Hitchens existed in an era of information exchange through books, publications, and television, Carl is a creature of the internet and understands its role in the modern political environment. With his outlet Lotus Eaters, Carl is a platform that can immerse its members in a media environment that provides its members with a political message via podcasts, cultural pieces, written articles, and news. The Gramscianism of the 20th century was successful, as Hitchens himself notes, because people were immersed in constant political messaging from the institutions they interface with every day. The Gramscianism of the 21st century will be successful because information flows are so large and people's lives are so integrated with the internet that it is possible to create networks that people interface with every day, removed from those institutions. Which is really great.
This is a fantastic advertisement for the website.
It is. He gets what we're doing, and clearly we're doing it effectively. Clearly it's working. And Bo also mentioned something about this in his article against doomerism, actually. And again, I'm just going to read out a quick thing here, because I really think this is important. What Bo calls the boomer doomers are in a sense doing our enemies' work for them. They're effectively collaborating with those who wish to grind England, Britain, and the entire Western world to dust. They are sowing seeds of despair, acting as agents of destruction and harbingers of ruin. Just because the boomer doomers have no more fire in their belly doesn't mean the rest of us share their dejection. Just because they lack the imagination to come up with solutions to our myriad problems doesn't mean that we don't. Then they may have no trousers, but there are literally millions of us who do. Just because they are an empty bag doesn't mean we all are. They are a room without a view, but there are still many of us who have the vision and will to battle on. They should step aside and let us get on with it. They have had their time and they blew it. Now it's our time. Down here, it's our time. And that's the point. It's like, look, it's our time now. What are we going to do with it? Right? And so actually, I think that really the oh, well, just flee Britain. We don't know what to do, is literally just because they don't know what to do. But actually, this is what we have been doing. We've been figuring out, okay, what are we going to do? And so one of the things that we're doing is conference building, which unfortunately this for some reason is not loading.
I shall refresh it.
Yes. But so
There
this
we go.
this is going to be the content of my speech at the Skildings event this year, which is brilliant. Can we scroll down and just see the lineup here? Because this, for anyone,
Mystery guest.
yeah, no,
speaker.
you'll enjoy the mystery guest speaker.
Oh, I'm
so
sure.
Harry and I are both going to the Skildings event this year, and there are some fantastic speakers. There are going to be dozens of others as well, but these are sort of the headline speakers. Because being online is not enough, right? We have to move into reality. We have to. We've done everything that we can on the internet. We have to start actually interfacing with real people in the real world, and that's what we're going to start doing. And this is a continuation, essentially, of. Well, there we go.
There we go.
My speech last year, which was the word in the shower, which you can go and watch on the website. Which, I mean, the comments, the responses in the comments, to this, which has been amazing. Just like, this is deeply moving. This is, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, because I really think that actually we've arrived at a place that actually has sort of roots now and has legs, and actually is starting to grow. Like the thing is building something, and so the sort of Peter Hitchens stuck in the position of Denethor, where he's been at the top of a series of institutions. Like he gets to go on Question Time.
He's their token conservative.
Exactly.
They bring on.
Exactly. He gets to go into the institutions and be like, well, everything's going terribly and none of you have any solutions. In fact, you're all the problem. It's like, oh, well, everyone should just leave. And it's like, yeah, that seems rational from his perspective, right, from where he is. But we're not there. We're somewhere completely different. And from our perspective, actually, we can feel pressure growing in the realm that we're in.
Well, it's no wonder to me that Peter Hitchens has such a dim view of where the situation is, because we joke and say, oh, he's their token conservative, but he really is. He's the person that they wheel out every so often for Question Time so that he can be laughed at by a panel of progressives and interrogated by a hostile audience who have been handpicked because they know that they'll have shrill NHS henpeckers.
Oh, yeah.
Manning the entire audience, who will just disagree with everything Peter Hitchens has.
But he always demolishes them.
No,
he always demolishes them.
He does, but from his own perspective, and that's why they do it. Not just for him to make him demoralized, but also for an audience that tunes into Question Time who'll watch it and go, oh, well, Peter Hitchens is completely outnumbered and I agree with him, so I must be completely outnumbered as well.
And it's also to reinforce the current paradigm as well.
It really is.
They just want them, oh, well, we all agree that Peter Hitchens is wrong. It's like, hey, why can't you disprove something that he's saying then?
But when you talk about the sort of spaces that we occupy, you can begin to see there is something to hope for.
Yeah, there's life. There's an organic beating heart in what we're doing. And the fact that, so many people have signed up for the website. So many people are coming to, I think, good luck getting tickets.
Sold out.
Yeah, I think it's sold out, the Skildings.
If we go back to the webpage, if I scroll up a bit, sold out.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap either. So people are really excited to go.
Exactly, right. There is a significant investment in this, and yet there are lots of people who are invested. So basically, if you've got tickets for this Friday and this weekend, we'll see you there. Both Harry and I will be coming.
Yes.
And I'm genuinely looking forward to it. But that's the thing. And this is the third year now, so, it's not like on the third, okay, the first one, maybe you could see it selling out because it's got some names on it and it sounds exciting. And the second year, maybe it does okay. And it's, it's not on a downward trend. It's on
becoming an institution.
Exactly. It's becoming an institution. And it's, in my opinion, one of the most exciting places because you actually get to hear a range of genuinely well thought out positions. But the point is, there's something building and growing here. And so it's making the transition from merely being part of an online space to being somewhere in the real world that is showing that, no, there is something coming. And in fact, I think maybe actually it can't really be stopped. So for the sort of doomers in the Westminster bubble going, well, look at this paradigm, it's falling apart. Yes, your paradigm is falling apart, but not a part of your paradigm. And we intend to be something that's afterwards. So I'll leave that there. But the point being, no, we're not fleeing England. We're not fleeing anywhere, you bloody cowards. Stop saying it. Just stop saying it.
It's going to be my movement. Just stop fleeing.
Yeah.
Just stay where you are. There you go.
Stay at your post.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, why not visit our website, where you can watch the podcast live, uncensored, in full, and for free from 1 o'clock UK time every weekday. And while you're there, for as little as £5 a month, you can get access to all of our premium content. For example, interviews like this, where Bo met with Dr. David Bull, the deputy leader of Reform UK. And if you'd like to see the rest of what Bo is putting out, you can follow Bo over on Twitter at @HistoryBro1 and the rest of us over at @LotusEaters_com. Until next time, goodbye.